Alright, let's get it to create a model sheet of this character, including a front, back, and side view. And this is also correct. Let's get it to turn the text into Chinese. And it also got this correct while keeping the font and everything else consistent. So this new and free AI image editor called Qwen Image Edit just dropped. And this is probably the best image editor you can use right now. Best of all, it's completely free and open source. They've already released the models, so you can download it and run it offline for unlimited times. So in this video, I'm going to show you all the incredible things you can do with it and compare it with another leading open source editor called Flux Context Dev. Plus, of course, I'm going to show you step by step how to install this on your computer so you can run it locally for free. Let's jump right in. So first of all, let's look at their announcement page and some of the demos that they've published. Qwen Image Edit is really good at accurately portraying your reference images. So for example, you can input this image of a character and you can generate additional images of it doing all sorts of things, like painting on this canvas, or cooking something, or playing the guitar, or doing some magic. It's also really good at generating different views of an existing photo. And of course, this is really good at micro-editing certain features. For example, we can replace this design on his t-shirt with the text Qwen, and then we can turn this into Ghibli style, or 3D cartoon style, or chibi style. And note that you can do all of this with just a text prompt, so you don't need to do any manual brushing or editing. All right, here's another tricky test. So here is an image which I deliberately blurred out. For your reference, here is what the original image looks like. And then for the prompt, I simply wrote deblur this image. Now actually for both Qwen Image Edit and Flux Context Dev, both were able to deblur this very well. Again, this is a very tricky prompt because the faces are all blurred out, so the AI basically doesn't have this data. It really has to try hard and guess what these faces actually look like. Next up, here is my input photo. You can see the edges are all messed up. There are folds all over this photo. It's a pretty damaged old photo. And for the prompts, I wanted to colorize and restore this photo, like it was taken in modern day. And honestly, both image editors did pretty well. In terms of actually accurately portraying the face, I would have to say Flux Context Dev is a bit more accurate. Notice the eyes of this man and the eyes of this girl are more aligned with the input photo. However, in terms of making it look like it was taken in modern day, I would have to give the point to Qwen Image Edit. This photo does look more like a modern photo, whereas the generation from Flux Context Dev still has some vintage vibe to it. Again, it's a pretty close call. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Alright, next up, I'm gonna upload this character. And for the prompt, I got it to make a model sheet of this character on a white background, full body shot, front, back, and side. And here is what we get. Honestly, both image editors are really good. However, Flux Context Dev did fail to generate a back view of this character, whereas Qwen Image Edit actually generated both the back view and the side view. Alright, next let's go over where you can actually use Qwen Image Edit. Now, if you don't have a nice GPU or you don't want to run it locally, then there is an online method. I'll link to this chat interface in the description below. It's just chat.qwen.ai, and this basically functions like ChatGPT. You can select different Qwen models up here and ask it questions in natural language. It also has a deep thinking mode, and it also has this web search feature so it can fetch the latest information from the internet. And they've just added this new feature called Image Edit. And here is where you can upload an image and then enter a prompt, and it will use Qwen Image Edit to basically apply the edit. And here is what we get. It indeed changes the background to a beach. And you can click here to download the image. Now this is just the online way to use it, but this probably has daily limits, plus this is censored. So to really get the most out of Qwen Image Edit, and if you want to use it offline for unlimited times, then here's how to do it. Now the easiest and most customizable and flexible way to use Qwen Image Edit offline is using Comfy UI. If you haven't heard of Comfy UI, this is the most popular platform for generating AI images and videos offline. In this video, I'm going to assume you already have Comfy UI installed. Anyways, going back here, they've just released a workflow for Qwen Image Edit. So that's exactly what I'm going to go over right now. So here are all the instructions. So let's scroll all the way down here to this model download step first. You'll need to click on each one and download it to your Comfy UI folder. So first of all, I'm going to click on this Qwen Image Edit diffusion model, and this goes in your Comfy UI folder, in models, and then in diffusion models. You can see that I already have this over here. And note that this is 19 gigabytes in size, so it's gonna take a while to download. And because this is 19 gigabytes in size, you'll probably need more than 19 gigabytes of VRAM in order to run this. But if you don't have that much VRAM, don't worry, I'm also gonna show you another version later in this video where you can run this with lower VRAM. Anyways, going back over here, the next step is to also download this LoRa. So let's click on this, And this goes in your Comfy UI folder, in Models, and then in LoRa's. As you can see, I already have this over here, and this is roughly 1.6 gigabytes in size. And then afterwards, we also need to download this text encoder file. So let's click on this, and this goes in Comfy UI, in Models, and then Text Encoders. You can see I already have this over here, and this is around 9 gigabytes in size. So depending on your internet speed, all these files might take a while to download. Anyways, finally we have this VAE, so let's click on this, and this goes in Comfy UI, in Models, and then in VAE. You can see that I already have this over here, and this is only 250 megabytes. Alright, after you've downloaded all 4 files, let's go ahead and start up Comfy UI. Now before doing anything, the first step is to update Comfy UI to make sure you have the latest version. So let's click on Manager, and then click Update Comfy UI. Alright, afterwards you should see this message, so let's click Close, and then just to be safe, let's click Restart. Alright, so after loading up Comfy UI again, let's go back to the instructions here, which I'll link to in the description below. Now, the nice thing is you don't need to program the workflow yourself. You can just drag and drop this pre-built workflow onto your interface. So let's right-click on this and then click Save Link As, and this is going to download a JSON file. Now, you can download this wherever you want. I'm just going to download it in my Comfy UI folder. So let's click Save. And then going back to Comfy UI, all we need to do is drag and drop the workflow onto the interface. And here is what we get. Pretty simple. Everything is pre-built for you already. Now the first step is, in this component, make sure you click on the dropdown for each model and select the appropriate model. So for example here, let's select Qwen Image Edit, and then over here, let's select Qwen 2.5 VL, and then down here, let's select Qwen Image VAE. Now you can just edit images like this, but it's going to be pretty slow, and that's because it's going to take around 20 steps to generate a decent image. I'll talk about what this steps thing is in a second, but instead what we're going to do is actually click on this LoRa component and then press Ctrl B to unbypass this. And down here, you can click on this dropdown and select Qwen Image Lightning 4 steps. And this basically allows you to generate images in only 4 steps instead of 20 steps. So this basically speeds up the generation process by like 5 times. So let's set this step count to 4 over here. Alright, next let's go over this entire workflow. So over here is where you would upload an image. For example, I'm going to upload this image, and then over here is where you would enter your prompt on how you want to edit the image. So for example, let's write turn the car blue. And then afterwards, it goes through this K-sampler, which you should be familiar with if you've watched my previous Comfy UI videos. So let's go over these really quickly. The seed is basically the starting point of your image. Now, there could be, in theory, an almost infinite number of ways to turn this car blue, and this seed number is just one of many ways. Now, usually you just set the seed to random, but if you set the seed to the same number and you keep all the settings the same, then you're going to generate the exact same image as before. And then the step count is basically how many steps you want the AI to go through before outputting your final image. In general, the more steps you have, the higher quality your image would be, but of course it's going to take longer to run. And at a certain point, if you run it for too many steps, you're going to get diminishing returns, and by that point, you're just going to be wasting compute. Conversely, if you set the step count to too low of a number, then it's going to run faster, but at the sacrifice of some quality. And then for CFG, this is basically how literally you want the AI to follow your prompt. And then sampler name and scheduler, these are basically different algorithms to generate the image. Feel free to play around with all these different algorithms. There are like subtle differences depending on which one you choose. And that's pretty much it. Now, note that there is a note down here which recommends the optimal settings you should use depending on whether you use this 4 steps LoRa over here. Now, because we've enabled this node so it can run faster, here it's saying we should set the step count to 4 and the CFG to 1. So going back here, indeed the step count is 4, and then let's also set the CFG to 1. And that's pretty much it. Let's click Run to edit our image. And here is what we get. Let me just drag this output image over here so you can compare the before and after. And note that this is a save image node, so the image is automatically saved in your Comfy UI's output folder, as you can see here. And that's basically how you can use the official Comfy UI workflow for Qwen Image Edit. Super simple. Now, if you have low VRAM, then this section is for you. Fortunately, the open source community moves really fast, so we already have some quantized versions of Qwen Image Edit, and these were made by this user called Quantstack. So I'll link to this page in the description below, and then over here you can see a table of the estimated VRAM requirements to run each of these different quantized variants. So if you have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, then you can probably use any of these models. Or if you have 12 gigabytes of VRAM, then you can use these ones. Or if you only have 8 gigabytes, then you can try this one. So for me, just as an example, let's click on Q2 and then click download. Now this goes in Comfy UI, in Models, and then in Unit. You can see I already have this here. And that's pretty much it. Now, going back to this workflow, instead of loading a diffusion model, you need to load a GGUF model. And this requires you to first install some GGUF components. So first, let's click on Manager, and then click on Custom Nodes Manager. Now, in case you don't have these GGUF nodes, at the top here, simply search GGUF, and you basically need to install this one, ComfyUI GGUF by City96. And even if you have it installed, you need to update to the latest version. So for me, I'm gonna press try update. All right, afterwards it says restart required, so let's click restart, and then click OK. All right, afterwards, going back to this workflow, instead of load diffusion model, let's double click anywhere on this interface to insert a new node. And then here, let's search for unit loader GGUF, and you should see this one. So let's select this, and then in the dropdown, you would simply select the quantized version that you downloaded. In my case, it's the Q2 version. And then afterwards, we simply drag this connection over here, and it would automatically disconnect this one. And that's pretty much it. That's how you can run QuenImageEdit with lower VRAM. So let's click Run. And here is what we get. Now notice that there is some clear noise and degradation in quality for this Q2 version, which is the smallest and most quantized version, but of course it's compressed so that you can run it with lower VRAM. So that sums up how you can get QuenImageEdit up and running locally on your computer, even if you have low VRAM. And that sums up my review and tutorial on QuenImageEdit. I hope you found this video helpful, especially the comparison between this and FlexContext Dev. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content.